You get there. So, okay. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to this little conversation that we are about to have. I'm joined by Bob Rockland from Code.nl and Joscha Krug from Makaira.io. Hey, folks, how are you doing?
Great to be here.
Yeah. Can you just briefly introduce yourself?
If I start, I'm Bob Rockland from the Netherlands. I have this, together with Wouter Monkers, my partner, we have set up an agency in the Netherlands like 16 years ago, to make it really short. And 4 years ago, we started to work with Shopify, and we turned our whole agency to a Shopify Plus company because we actually like the software a lot. And we needed some focus, so that's what we're doing. And recently, we have also expanded to Berlin, where actually I met Joshua in real life in 2018, I remember. Mm-hmm. And Toronto also. Yeah. Which is also in Toronto. Yeah. So we're mostly technical oriented agency. That's why we're called Code, obviously.
Okay, makes sense. So Joshua, who are you? What are you doing?
Also founder of an agency. We are located in Magdeburg, near Berlin, and in Heidelberg, and also we have now 11 colleagues in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we're talking about Headless today. Can anybody just explain to us what Headless is in very simple words?
Well, actually, so I need to add one thing. We are building, to make that sure, we're building Makaira. That's what you see also in the logos here, which is a headless platform. So I have a kind of an idea of what headless means. So I think it's a separation of the back-end business logic that you have in your systems and the front end, the rendering, what you display. So this, and if you keep that separated in not just template and your back-end code, but you separate it in two separate apps, then we're talking about headless. Yes, that's the description, at least, that I use.
Would you agree to that? Is that also your perception?
I agree, yeah. Okay. So you have ordered two systems to do one thing.
Okay. Another question. Okay, so...
Let the fights begin.
Okay, so another big question is, who do you think will benefit from this? Why are people doing this?
Joscha, you know why your clients do this?
Yeah. So I think if you have larger teams, it makes totally sense to separate parts and to let the front-end developers do the front-end and do the back-end developers let the back-end developers do the back-end. If you have large-scale projects with a lot of specific code integrations and so on, it helps a lot to keep the front-end guys running while backend still is working on imports and stuff. That is one point where it makes sense, and then it totally makes sense from an architecture perspective. Also, if you have a lot of integration, if you have specific stuff to solve, and not just you have let's say in that case, Shopify, and then you integrate an external CMS to that, and then you integrate another API for your backend system, and then you have your whatever you want to render, calendar, bookings, stuff, recordings. I had a talk with one client today that they want to build online courses and have a really specific thing of when you get a certificate of that and so on. And if you want all to integrate that in one system, it's really hard. And it's easier sometimes if you keep them separated. Just give them an API, and then you have one application that does the rendering for the front end.
Okay, so that was the tech and agency perspective. What in terms of the benefits, Bob? What do you think for merchants? Why would they choose this? Why would this be?
Actually, like Joscha already explained, it already sounds a bit complicated. So you need complicated stuff. But what we see a lot, and that's why this little discussion is about, is that we see some clients who come to us and they say, "I heard about Headless. I need this." What we're a little bit against is a lot of people don't need it, but they think they need it because it's the new technique and they heard about it. We like to have a lot of focus. That's why we went from like 7 systems we developed in the past, even Spotify and Drupal and stuff like that, all to Shopify. And already, this is actually difficult to be really good at Shopify core. And that's why we try to focus on only non-headless solutions and just build out on the platform as is, and also benefit of all the stuff Shopify builds for you, because it's not per se a cheap platform, of course, especially not in Plus. But against that, of course, we have situations where we say, okay, this is so complex what you want. We advise you to go to a headless solution. But then we simply are not the match, so we just send them to partners or other agencies we know, like Joscha.
So basically you're saying...
My point is, you have to think very hard before you go to such a complicated solution.
So basically you're saying that that headless has turned into some sort of buzzword that people carry around with them without really, understanding the implications. And then they end up with a solution that they might not need.
Yes, that's actually what we do. We do take a point. And also, again, it has to do with focus. And we like Shopify because it takes care of all the things you don't want to develop. And also, another thing is you need really highly skilled developers like Joscha has, of course, to do this. And you get a little bit into the vendor logging stuff, which we don't have with Shopify, which we had in the past.
Yeah, of course, you have the have a vendor login. You have Shopify.
Yeah,
you're bound to Shopify. Okay. So if you want to go then and decide like, hey, your backend is too limited. You need the on-premise solution because you have then more flexibility for checkout, for example. That's kind of limited even in the Plus. Then of course you're totally bound to Shopify. While if you're going headless, you just need to change the backend process, and you can keep your front end up and running.
Yeah, but from a vendor logging perspective, and we have built a lot of Shopify stores and with clients, and sometimes what happens, the client goes away to another agency, or they start developing themselves, or we take over the Shopify Plus from another agency. It is very simple, right? I mean, the vendor logging from agency to keep Shopify, but they get another agency, so they get a login and they don't have to start all over. They can do where they stand and continue to work.
So if you're saying like an agency builds a very, custom solution for one specific client, obviously the client cannot just simply move away because this agency is the only agency in the world who understands this. Okay.
Well, I think that happens, but maybe Joscha disagrees, but I think that happens.
I kind of agree, but you have the same situation if you build Shopify apps. Because then the app is only maintained by one agency. If you have a private app and you integrate that in Shopify, you have exactly the same problem. Of course.
Actually, that is why we stopped developing recently private apps. So we need at least 2 customers who want this private functionality, private.
Okay.
And then we make. But you're right. If those 2 customers both want to move stuff,
which is like music in my ears. Like as a Shopify person, I really appreciate you building public apps.
We're also building, working on our first public app, the integration for Makaira, of course. But still, we see a lot of limitations in Shopify that if you have large scale products or really individual processes, that we often think of like, would it be a good idea to implement that into Shopify with all the integration stuff, or shouldn't we keep it separate? Because anyways, you need to work with APIs, because the Shopify app is also working just with APIs. And why not just doing the integration directly in the front end instead of going through Shopify and then implementing it there?
Yeah, certainly there are a lot of situations where headless makes totally sense. So, but if you just sell a simple product like fashion, or which is a lot of e-commerce, of course, or electronics,
Actually, that's interesting, because we had the one fashion project, 7sands.com. They're live now. And they do customized T-shirt personally for you. So you can choose a lot of like the length of the T-shirt and the size and the color and all that stuff. And then they just built that T-shirt only specific for you. And if you multiply that, you have a lot of SKUs that limits Shopify's variant handling. And for them, we decided to go headless, but inside Shopify. So we built the detailed pages as React application, but inside a Shopify template. So there's no other system involved. It's just the front end, but the front end talks to the API of Shopify to select one product then. So it's even possible to go headless without having another application running. You could do that as well, of course, in Shopify.
I find that is a perfect example, and I think also understandable for a lot of people. If you explain it like this, of course, that headless part you did build there is a no-brainer. We would do the same. We would ask someone to build that maybe, but that's good. So then you go beyond.
You're going headless. You just don't name it like that because it's a Shopify template that starts the headless process. Okay, got it.
So that I think that's also actually I'm gonna remember this one because we find it often hard to explain to merchants what headless is, which is I think still difficult. But with this example. This is a good example. You want a T-shirt builder within your Shopify. Yes, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so, in the name of, reducing complexity and making e-commerce more successful for merchants, it makes sense to look at, either headless or not headless, just use it when it makes sense, not try to follow, all the buzzwords that are being pushed around. And I think this is a sort of a nice outcome, right? So we need to be clever about these decisions. We need to be clever about the choices. So thanks very much, folks, for the discussion. And I hope you out there found something interesting, and if you like to approach both of them, just, find them on LinkedIn and then give them an opinion. And thanks very much.
Thank you, Roman.
Hey, thank you, Roman.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Talk to you.